The Porral Challenge Cup, a cup which has actually been rowed ever since 1914, and in order to win it they had to win the actual trophy 5 years in succession with only 2 crew changes in that time. So quite a tall order. Med has managed to pull it off this weekend, and as I say, history in the making. Douglas, congratulations to yourselves and of course to the club. What does it mean to you?
Well, I think it means the satisfaction of having gone through a substantial amount of years since 1987, getting down to very hard work, and now we're getting the benefits of all the work we've put in.
Well, the club president, Vincent Lating, before the presentation for the trophy, was talking about the way that several crews have come close to winning this trophy in the past, but not quite made it.
That's right. If I remember correctly, I think in the 1920s, the donor itself, Porral, was on the verge of winning it, and then in the 1930s, a crew made up of the Falquero brothers nearly pulled it off also.
So how difficult has it been for you? Because you've put together rather a strong first crew, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. As I say, since 1987 we were, in other words, breeding the necessary oarsmen for the future. And in 1991, when we started winning all the regattas and we started to dominate local rowing, we've been able to continue getting the oarsmen together for the Porral ever since 1991. And obviously, we've been able to continue that until this date. Today, yes, I can say that it is one of the strongest crews that we've ever had, and obviously they've proved it by winning the Porral 5 years in the trot.
And they're still quite young, aren't they?
That's right, that's right. We are talking about crews which at the end of the day, we're talking about 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, and I think the oldest one is about 25, 26.
Tyrone, if I could move to you. You're, of course, one of the members of the crew. What sort of spirit is there in the crew? Are you very united? Do you like rowing with each other?
Yes, there's a lot of team spirit. In our crew, we've been rowing for quite a few years together, and we've been training quite a lot together also. I mean, and we're also very good friends, so that's a basic ingredient for success at the end of the day, that we all get on very well with each other.
Do you find it difficult to get the training hours in? Because, of course, you've got to get yourselves together and presumably either early mornings and work commitments, things like that?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, with work and people studying abroad and one thing and the other, it's always very difficult to get the hours necessary to train properly, and especially getting up early in the mornings, which is now very, obviously, quite dangerous with this plenty of boat movement early in the morning. And in the dark hours, it's quite difficult, as I say, to get the necessary hours of training that is required. But nevertheless, as long as we do a lot of land training and we've got the ergometers, that if we maintain our fitness, then it's all right. I mean, that's we've also been rowing for many years together, so at the end of the day, if we get together in a crew, we know more or less how each of us row, and it's not like getting in a crew with with new people or starting from nothing, because we know basically what it's all about.
What about plans for the future? Because as we were mentioning with Douglas, you are still quite young, and now we're thinking, what in fact are you aiming to achieve in the years to come?
Well, there's no limit at the end of the day. I mean, just keep on training and keep on winning here locally, and extra emphasis on going abroad and representing Gibraltar, which at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, aiming for the top.
And at the presentation ceremony, Lieutenant Colonel Porral, whose father originally donated the trophy you see before him in 1914, announced that he would quite gladly replace it. So there will be a Porral Challenge Cup for both clubs to compete for next season. And then it was down to the presentation, the victorious Med crew coming up to receive the trophy, the crew comprising Stuart Ben-Savon, Liam Yates, there we see him in picture, collecting the trophy. Behind him, Tyrone Moreno, Cathal Yates, third in line. Then it was the Cox, Ian McIntosh, and finally Stuart Bensalong, the final component of the winning crew. Med winning very comfortably in the end by 8 seconds from their second crew and no less than 18 seconds from the Calpe first crew. So a great start to the weekend's rowing for the Med oarsmen. But on Sunday there were more regattas. Incidentally, the ladies regatta for the Bailey's Challenge Cup on Saturday also won quite comfortably by Med, Calpe not presenting crews. And on Sunday, 2 regattas, team events, both of them. For the youngsters, the Gibtel Challenge Cup over 2 legs. This is the first of those legs, 3 250-metre lengths. Med already in the lead, as you can see, the crew comprising Jay Vignales, Ubambuani, Keilatin, C. Crisp and Orlando Viñas as Cox, already ahead of the Calpe boat, which on this occasion was Sean Walker, Cristina Sobardi, Ronnie Gaucher and Jonathan Ferrari with Keith Bautista as Cox. The interesting thing here, of course, is because it's a team event and the aggregate time of the 2 legs count, it means that even if you're behind, the incentive is there to keep rowing as hard as you can and cut back on the seconds, or at least limit the seconds lead that the opponents can get out of you, so that your other crew has a chance of clawing those back in the next leg. Med, well, they really made some excellent turns on the day. There we see one of them coming out ahead of the Calpe crew. Calpe just about going into their second and final turn in this leg, whilst Med were pulling out, and all the time the Med crew forging ahead and opening up the water between the 2 boats, establishing quite a healthy lead for the second leg. There we see the Med boat coming through, a time of 3 minutes 12.58 seconds, and well ahead of the Calpe crew, who clocked 3 minutes 31.4, and it meant it was going to be quite a difficult task then for the second Calpe crew to overhaul that massive lead established by Med. There we see them pushing all the way to the line, just beyond the buoy there. And look at the distance between them and the Calpe crew. Calpe looking more tired at this stage. A slower rate. And certainly the boat not moving as fast through the water towards their 3 minutes 31.4 seconds. But it was still all to row for in the second leg. And the boats lining up and starting on the further, from your picture, the further side of the course. The 250 meters then run down to the first turn. And this time for Med, it was Jay Avellano, C. Rodriguez, I. Viñales and Kay Magnasco with Ian McIntosh as Cox. They were representing Med. Representing Calpe, we had Jean-Paul Risso, Patrick Cavesuto, Nigel Acris and Alan Darlington with Kieran Aquilina as Cox. An excellent turn there from the Med boat, and certainly McIntosh doing very well at the helm and changing what was a deficit into a lead. And this was to prove the difference between the boats in this particular leg, though the results was always going to be academic, because the great lead that Med had established in the first of the legs and the equality between the 2 crews disputing the second made it already a victory for the Med Rowing Club. The second of the turns, Med going through very tight and turning quickly. And as the camera opens out, you'll be able to appreciate Calpe just ahead of them at this stage. They were faster between the buoys, and they maintained that lead to the end, clocking 3 minutes 05.88 to Med's 3:08.39. But in the aggregate time, Med winners by 17 seconds, and very comfortable for them in the end. But yet another victory for the Med Rowing Club in what was a very successful weekend, as we're watching the first of the legs for the Carboni Challenge Cup. This was the senior team event. The same conditions as for the juniors, but instead of having 3 lengths to row, they rowed 4. which meant they had to go round the buoys 3 times instead of 2. Rowing this first leg for Med, it's J. Viñales, P. Buttigieg, S. Almang, R. Rodriguez with Keotard as cocks, whereas in the Calpe boat it was Dennis Peñalver, Patrick Cavesuto, John-Paul Riso and Carl de Vincenzi with Kieran Aquilina as cocks. Most of these oarsmen already having competed in the previous regatta, so no doubt a little bit tired, particularly those who had rowed in the second leg. Med establishing a lead at the first turn, as you can see, and maintaining that lead coming down towards the second. Nice steady rhythm of the Med boat. Calpe some 2 lengths adrift. And as they go into the turn, you can appreciate just how well the Med coxers were doing in getting the boat round the mark quickly and smoothly, without the boat coming to a complete standstill, maintaining as much momentum as possible. An excellent turn again from the Med crew, and they actually opened out the lead there as they came through to the final turn. There we see Med again trying to establish as much of a lead as possible. Calpe trying to limit the damage, but a bit of a tall order really, and the turns, every single one of them very tight, and Med coming through in a time of 4 minutes 2.89 seconds, with Calpe well behind, as you can see by this stage, 4 minutes 25.31 seconds. The Calpe crew visibly tiring in the closing stages, where the lead certainly opened up a lot more. But this made it really quite comfortable for Med, again going into the second legs of the Carboni trophy. The first crews, there we see them. Nearer the picture, it's Calpe. Furthest from picture, Med, Nicky Viñales, Cathal Yates, Tyron Moreno, Gavin Griffin and Ian McIntosh. Whereas for Calpe, it was Shane Shakaluga, Edmund Bensalong, Jason Napoli and Leslie Grech, with Keith Bautista as cocks. Quite level in the early stages, coming into the first of the turns. As the camera opens out, you can appreciate Med just slightly ahead, a lead which they maintained of approximately half a length right down to the halfway mark in the regatta. But whereas the Calpe boat going a little bit long on that turn, Med very tight and pulling ahead, managing to extend their lead a little bit, coming through to the last of those turns and maintaining the lead to the end, coming through in a time of 3 minutes 58.92 to Calpe's 4 minutes 10.06. The aggregate times, Med's comfortable winners by 34 seconds almost, and really a very, very successful weekend's rowing for the Med Rowing Club. And they were greeted by their members down at the club with applause, certainly well merited, for not only winning the Porral trophy for keeps, but also an excellent weekend's rowing.